Iată, Steve Pelletier initially, Maideskis initially, Billigana Bush's Chin, Keen Lachini Dashache, Billigana Dashanella. Welcome back to Resball, where this time we're talking about Maryland center Derik Queen. Man, oh man, this is one of those that's an easy one-to-one comp, but also a very hard evaluation just because the talent is there. There's some quirks there. I think for me too, when there's the easy one-to-one comp, I kind of like tend to overanalyze, I think. So we'll get into Derik Queen right about now. Derik Queen comes from Baltimore, Maryland. He went to St. Francis Academy for his first like year or two there in Baltimore, and then Montverde clearly saw the talent, snatched him up, and from sophomore year and beyond, then Derik Queen was at Montverde. So the final season, senior season at Montverde, Derik Queen posted 16.4 points per game. Apparently that's hard for me to say. 7.5 rebounds, 2 assists per game, 1 steal per game, and 0.7 blocks per game. Stick a pin in that 0.7 blocks per game. I mean, this is a kid that has very great touch around the rim, very good passing big, and still gets on the glass. And that translated to Maryland very, very easy. So if anybody watched the tournament, the NCAA tournament, March Madness, I believe Maryland's probably one of those teams that like casual fans didn't think would go far, but ended up doing so because Derik Queen's a beast. Led Maryland in scoring, 16.5 points per game, 9 rebounds per game, 1.9 assists, 1.1 steal per game, 1.1 block per game, and then 2.4 turnovers per game. Shooting splits for Derik Queen are 55.8% from 2-point range, 20% from 3-point range, and then 76.6% from the free throw line. Okay, if you're unfamiliar with Derik Queen, I'm going to give the comp right off the bat, and that's Apleren Sengun. Pretty sure that comp has been out there for like a year now. Just as even at the Montverde tape, you're like, man, this guy really knows how to pass. He's definitely a center. I think defensively is probably limited, but you buy into him getting on the glass, 9 rebounds. You buy into him scoring 16.5 points per game. Again, led this Maryland squad to 27-9 record. They made it to the semifinal, third round against Florida. Gee, they lost to the eventual national champion. It's like, come on. And how often do you see a freshman lead a team to this kind of success? This is not like Duke, where it's Common Malawach, Cooper Flag, and Concanipple. There's multiple guys teaming up. No, it's Derik Queen as the freshman leading the way. You got my guy, Jacoby Gillespie, second leading scorer, junior, Rodney Rice, sophomore, Julian Reese, senior, Selton Miguel, junior. I mean, the main guys in this team are all upperclassmen. If you look at the totals in the minutes as well, Derik Queen was third in minutes. I mean, this, knock on wood, this Maryland squad was super healthy. They're basically their starting 5 all played 1,000 minutes or more. Jacoby Gillespie, Rodney Rice, Derik Queen, Julian Reese, Selton Miguel, like I just said. And then the other guys, Deshaun Harris-Smith, Jalen Young, Tafara Gapare, like, again, all upperclassmen, but it's the freshman leading the way, leading scorer. I mean, if he wasn't scoring Derik Queen, I don't know how far this Maryland squad goes. They all played off of Derik Queen. It's not often you see a freshman come in and have that kind of an impact. I know. The playmaking big is the thing so many people are going to sell him on. But if you look at the raw stats, 67 assists to 85 turnovers, it's not going to impress you. Let's look at those assist percentage and turnover rates. 11.6 assist percentage, and then 14.5% turnover rate. 11.6% assist rate is not going to wow you. This is where I would look at like conference versus non-conference schedule as well. In the conference schedule, I mean, it's the Big Ten. As I will say in perpetuity until this changes completely, the Big Ten is the conference of the center and of the traditional center. Zach Edey's probably like the guy that sums up what Big Ten basketball normally is about. And with Derik Queen, it was no exception there. He started off the year like having pretty good amount of assists, having some good run there before the non-conference schedule. But then once conference play started, the playmaking did go down here. I can give you the non-conference stuff. So this is from November 4th all the way until December 28th, really before non-conference play starts. And this is really in year 2024. It's 13 games. In these first 13 games, Derik Queen was averaging 2.2 assists per game, 28 assists to 27 turnovers. So it is more like 1-to-1. But you just got to turn on the tape, go all the way back to Montverde, watch this Maryland squad. There are passes that a Derik Queen makes that you just do not see centers make that often. And I do see the parallel with Sengun, where Sengun won the MVP of the Turkish league at 18, 19 years old. Derik Queen didn't win the MVP of the Big Ten, but still 27 and was that 27-9, 27-6, third round of the NCAA tournament. How many freshmen can boast that kind of stuff? And that was the thing with Sengun too. In hindsight, you look at it and you're like, he led to winning. Sure, the defense was still there. I didn't like him. Sure, you're like, and you got to live with some of this playmaking warts, but very rare that you see a big have that playmaking as well as being able to score and have touch, and it leads to wins with his team. Again, you can't find that very often, and why the Sengun comp is very easy to make with a Derik Queen. True shooting percentage for Derik Queen was 56.2%. This might be the concerning part to me. Again, lead guy, 56%. That's not too bad. Some people would say it's not really an area of concern. If you go into I was in the conference schedule, at least in the season, 59.1%. Sorry, if you're not watching this on YouTube, I forgot to click back on the entire season. So 59.1% is the true shooting percentage for Derik Queen for the entire season. Very good. Let's see, we'll get to the shot chart here in a minute. Lead guy, anytime you're like 58% or over as the lead guy, true shooting percentage, your money, and you can bet that this guy's going to be fine. 54.6% free throw attempt rate. And that's the other part about Derik Queen. It's like, okay, maybe you want to, nitpick that he's a traditional center. Like, yeah, I don't know if we want to give him this usage. It's like, well, he averaged 6.1 free throw attempts per game. He shot 76.6% from the free throw line and 54.6% free throw attempt rate. That's a lot of times to get to the free throw line. 218 total free throw attempts. Again, I think we've only seen one other guy who got to the free throw line 200 times so far. It does not happen very often. And when you do have an offensively lean center, I think two things in this NBA now is like, okay, are they stretch five like a Jaren Jackson Jr., where you can just be like, hey, let's let them launch away from three? Not that Jaren Jackson Jr. is an offensively inclined three, but you know what I mean? Like, a cat was probably the better example. Like, okay, can we just lean on them to bomb away? And the other one is, can they get to the free throw line better than anybody else? And with their Queen, the answer is yes. That 54.6% free throw attempt rate. I think it's the best rate out of all the freshmen, if I remember correctly. And the usage rate isn't like astronomically high. Honestly, by the end of the year, watching all those Maryland games, I thought Derik Queen's usage rate was going to be like around 30%, but it ended up being 26.6%. If you listen to Jam and I earlier in the year, one of the main things I applauded the Maryland and Jacoby Gillespie and Derik Queen for was just how well they played off each other. And I think same with Julian Reese and Derik Queen. Like, that's probably the main reason why Derik Queen was such a success and why he led the charge for this Maryland round to get to the third round of the NCAA tournament is how he plays off his teammates. And that probably comes from being at Montverde, where he played with an Asa Newell, who's like a more athletic rim running big. He played with a Cooper Flag, who's, the dominant wing kind of power forward guy that can play with the ball in his hand. He played with a Robert Wright III, more of a traditional point guard who does space the floor, and Liam McNeely, combo forward who can shoot the lights out. So I think that's probably the skill for Derik Queen that goes uncelebrated. Is like, he really knows how to play off his teammates on offense and just make them so much better. And 26.6% usage. Yes, that's league guy territory, but it's not super ball dominant. He's a center. How well does he rebound? Well, 84 offensive rebounds, 239 defensive rebounds, 323 total rebounds. I mean, Derik Queen was one of the best rebounders in college basketball, regardless of being a freshman at any position. 9% offensive rebounding rate. I think that can probably go up in the NBA, just depending on whose scheme they're running. 24.6% defensive rebounding rate, and then 16.9% total defensive rebounding rate. another Kevin Love type of guy where it's like he doesn't jump high, he doesn't move much, but it's like the rebounds just appear in his hands because he knows positioning. He fights to get on the glass and just always, always, always is there in position to pull in the rebound, which is also funny because he ain't exactly the biggest guy. I remember people were concerned that Derik Queen was going to measure in at like 6'8" in shoes. He's listed at 6'10", but he ended up measuring 6'9 1/4" without shoes at the combine. So he is 6'10" for sure in shoes, 247.8 pounds, and then 7 feet and a half inch wingspan. You would like the wingspan to be better, just like plus 1 1/4 inch. And then I don't think the weight is an issue, but this is somebody that I have heard from many different people have the conditioning questions. Is he in shape? He looks kind of fat and whatever. This is one I will hand wave because it's like we've seen, what is that, 3 years at Montverde, 1 year, like 4 consecutive years of high level basketball. I mean, 3 year in high school, but when you're playing at Montverde, like you are going to get exposed and thrown off the court if you're out of shape. And Derik Queen ain't out of shape. Sure, maybe he's pudgy, or sure, maybe he's not the most cut up guy, but I think that's just his body type. And he obviously knows how to use it to be physical, to get to the free throw line, and to get on the glass and stuff like that. So the conditioning part, again, he played over 1,000 minutes at Maryland. I don't, I can't recall a time, especially this last season, where like Deer Queen's conditioning became a thing. So I knew that was a thing coming into the year, and it kind of came and went. But to me, I'm just like, he's a different body type, man. This is where I do hate like the scouting community and whatever, because like everybody has to be the Greek god. Everybody has to have, VO2 levels or whatever super high. And it's like everybody has a different body type. Everybody has a different kind of athleticism here. And when it's somebody like this, it's like, why didn't he come off the court then? Okay, why didn't this show up on film if you really want to, talk about, he's fat or he's unconditioned? Don't talk about it with me because, again, it doesn't show up on film. Shot chart here, a lot of blue, but the blue only appears in mid range and in 3 point range. I guess now is like as good of a time as any. So there's still some people out there that's like, I think Derik Queen has a jumper, and I'd say to them, I don't really care if he has a jumper or not. It's why I put the Sengun comp on him. Sengun still doesn't have a jumper. He still takes them, but he's shooting like 25% or 28% from three. It's like, I guess he's taking them just to keep defenses honest and hit enough of them that, it can pull it out. But it's not something to be relied upon. And Sengun is a fantastic offensive player without the jump shot. And I think Derik Queen could be the same way. 6 of 32 threes from above the break, 18.8%. It's not a lot of threes. It's a small sample size. Yes, the percentage is god awful, but super small sample size, 32 shots. 1 of 3 from the corners. The microscopic shot selection there, shot small samples. It's not a small sample size. It's a microscopic sample size, so don't even bother with corner threes. Maybe that's something he can do in the future, but it's a long-term projection. When you're shooting 18.8% from above the break and then you only took 3 corner threes, yeah, if you want him to do that, Derik Queen to do that, like, you got to give it a long time. The more concerning one is 20 of 71 in the mid-range. Let's break it down into the medium zones here. 3 of 13 from left baseline, 5 of 18 from right baseline, 5 of 23 from the left elbow, and then 7 of 17 from the right elbow. I mean, it's 27.8% or below on both baselines and from left elbow. The only area that had any glimmer of hope in the mid-range for Derik Queen is that right elbow, 7 of 17, 41.2%. I don't want to say he like over relied on the shot, but I think, again, this is the nitpicking part where it's like, yes, the scoring big, yes, the touch, yes, the free throw, yes, the playmaking is something absolutely to develop. But when it comes to the overall offensive package, I think if Derik Queen lands in a spot where they're just like, cool, bro, you got the green light, shoot whatever you want. If you start pulling that elbow jumper, you're going to see this guy be incredibly inefficient, like shades of Julius Randle at times, where it's just like, oh, bro, like you don't need to be backing down, or you don't need to be trying to prove you have a face up game or whatever. Like, just take it to the rack, man. Just use your size and bully and get in there. So the mid range stuff, sure, end of the shot clock. Yes, absolutely. Like if you have a mismatch, but again, especially the elbow jumper, like that is going to take a while. And when it comes to the big man spot, who still has an elbow jumper? Like Al Horford. Al Horford's had an elbow jumper probably since he's like 15 years old. So again, it's one of those things that it's like, yeah, maybe in like 5, 6 years times, it's something and you want to keep doing it. But I really think again, it's going to end up on the team that Derik Queen ends up on, to where it's like, okay, we don't have to tank right now and run out with this and be okay. And I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I think like a San Antonio would be a terrible spot for Derik Queen, because you got to win right away with Wembanyama. They traded for De'Aaron Fox. Like, sure, it'd be cool to see how Derik Queen's playmaking and all the other great offensive stuff he does plays off of Wembanyama, but like, you really want this guy who might start jacking up mid-range threes or mid-range elbow jumpers when like you're ready to go with Wembanyama? I really think Derik Queen is like a field of space kind of player, to where like you can get the maximum out of him when you just give him time and iron it out. Again, the Sengun comp just fits in so many regards, because it's the same thing with Houston there. They had the time, they had the space, and so in 3 seasons' time, they let him slowly develop, and they didn't need to rush him and be like, no, 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 man, you got to cut that out. Or, no, no, you got to cut this out. It's like, no, let's see if we can do this for a couple seasons, and then by year 4, year 5, it's like, okay, now we know what's great, what is actually something that's developing, and other things that are like, okay, man, you got to chill out on that stuff. But those are just those are the areas of concern. Everywhere else, paint at the rim, Derik Queen is money. 47 of 94 shots in the paint, 50%. I mean, that's a good percentage. And then at the rim, 136 of 199 shots, 68.3%. I actually think that's better in the NBA if he was playing in like a five out system. At Maryland, like Jacoby Gillespie, reliable shooter. Rodney Rice, reliable shooter. And let's see. The main thing with me is like playing with Julian Reese was good and bad, and that Julian Reese helped a lot on defense to switch and protect the rim and stuff that Derik Queen is bad at. But on offense, I think it did limit the paint and rim numbers, because you're playing two guys that can't shoot. That's probably another reason why Derik Queen needed to take more elbow jumpers. And there were some games where it's like, oof, why is he shooting so many threes? Is because Julie recent like took maybe 3 or 4 3-point shots like his entire 4-year career. So that's probably part of it. And why I say I think both the paint and the rim numbers can be better, because when you're playing another in a system where everybody can shoot a 3-point shot except you, then you're not going to have that kind of crammed paint there. And again, it's the Big Ten. Everybody's loading up to try and stop him there. They know what's coming, but he's still 50% in the paint, 68.3% at the rim. It's still great. This is not somebody that's a dunk athlete, though. Like, he's going to be a good pick and roll finisher. Like, when he has a clear lane to the rim, yes, he can dunk, but definitely not somebody that you're throwing lobs to, unless like there's a super clear runway that's cleared out. Not an explosive type of athlete, but has great touch. Can turn over both shoulders, can do a variety of moves in the post. I mean, has everything down there, down low, that will help in the finish in terms of movement, footwork, and the touch to finish there. But again, not somebody that you're going to see throwing up these super athletic dunks, and not somebody that you can just like feed lobs to in that way. So I forgot to say this part. If you're not watching us on YouTube, this time the group that I put together with Derik Queen is Asa Newell, his old teammate from Montverde who was playing at Georgia, and then Victor Locken, who's a late riser over at Clemson. I'm not even sure what to call this group. Maybe like the new school type of centers, because Derik Queen, again, so much like an Apleren Sengun, Asa Newell, rim running big that did try and stretch out the floor a little bit more and expand his game at Georgia, and then Victor Locken, more of a stretch five for sure that can switch. So and we'll come back to all those guys here. Oh boy, the 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 Apleren Sengun comp really for me like hones in for Derik Queen on defense. 1.1 steal, 1.1 block per game seems good, right? Like, oh, he's getting 1 steal, 1 block. It seems like he's active. Like, sure, 1 steal and then in converse play, 1 steal per game, 1.1 block per game. That stayed certain. But you got to go back to the Montverde tape again. Asanul, Cooper Flag, Derik Queen never had to play defense. When your small forward is basically like the weak side shot blocking Superman in Cooper Flag, and then your center is a rim running big that could be in the vein of a Nick Claxton. That's not my comp for him, but Asanul being super athletic and more of an athlete to get up there and protect the rim and do rim running stuff. It's like that environment did not really help Derik Queen develop on defense. And then there's just so many times this year on defense on the tape where it's like, bro, I don't know if you care. Like, I don't know what happened there. Falling asleep, ball watching, just doesn't seem to have interest at all times. But again, the Sengun comp, it's like Sengun, sure, he's still bad on defense, but he's good enough that he's not necessarily cooking them. And it's really going to come down to like, okay, when we're at a level of now we're in the playoffs, now we want to go further. How's it going to look? And that's where Houston is at now. It's like, okay, they got in, but Golden State, like their reoccurring nightmare, Golden State knocked them out of the playoffs. Shingun's defense is still kind of I think it's that same way with Derik Queen. Again, this is another guy where stats don't show everything. You really got to study the film to know, like, man, there are times where he does want a defensive play make, but there are so many other times where it's either lost or just lack of motivation to get out there and play on defense. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Derik Queen not going to exactly be like leading the league in shot blocks. It's really, I think for Derik Queen though, where I can feel a little bit more confident than like maybe he'll break away from Sengun, is I do think like the Cooper Flag and Asanul Montverde guys did rub off on him a little bit in terms of like wanting to play make and being able to do it. It's just he doesn't flash that stuff a lot. 1.1 steal definitely shouldn't be ignored because I do think he wants to play in passing lanes a little bit more. And it's really going to come down to like who takes him and how they're going to develop him on that side of the ball. And really like the defensive infrastructure that ends up surrounding him there. Is if you do go to a team that has like a bunch of bad defenders already, it's like, man, this guy's probably more packed and painted in the rim, painted it at the rim, not really going anywhere else or doing anything. But if he goes somewhere, I mean, the Wiz are normally like not the greatest development path, but I think somebody next, like playing this next to somebody like an Alex Sarr, who seems like he wants to be more perimeter oriented, but is a very good rim protector. And then you have Derik Queen there, and Sarr like maybe is more of a power forwardish kind of guy. Or like Memphis would probably be the ideal spot if they could have somehow ended up with Derik Queen, because Jaren Jackson Jr., super great rim protector, super great stretch big, but Memphis does want to play in a traditional center. Bam, Derik Queen is exactly that, with the playmaking, with the touch, with the free throw generating magnet, all that kind of stuff. So that's what I mean. I think Derik Queen, like, I think he's, again, the Shingu thing, he's really going to score. He's really going to play make, but the defensive side is going to be the biggest swing skill between being like, oh, this guy is fun and maybe a couple time all-star versus like, okay, we got something different on our hands and it really has an overall total impact. I've seen people put like the baby Jokic thing on Derek Queen, and it's just like Jokic is such a different animal. And when Jokic, like, it was veering towards the territory of like best big man ever, veering towards the territory of like top five playmaker ever. Like, you just can't put the even if it's the baby version of a quote unquote, like he just averaged a triple double pretty much, and he probably has an MVP taken from him just because they don't want to give it to him again because he's too good. I ain't putting that on anybody, man. That's too much pressure. So Derik Queen, some stuff to look at on YouTube. NoCeilingsNBA.com. So many great things on Derik Queen. They've had so many great discussions in the podcast. Just go to the feed. And on YouTube, they had a nice season highlight package on him. Keandre, aka Hoop Intellect, has a nice Derik Queen scouting report. About 15 minutes on it. Go check out that as well. And then Utility Sports has, I think, has one of the more interesting videos on there. It's like 36 minutes, 51 seconds, so it's a little bit longer, but it's definitely worth looking at. It just says Derik Queen NBA draft scouting report, but they kind of talk about him as a big guard. I think that's one of the better ones too to go look at in terms of understanding the playmaking and the different animal that a Derik Queen can be. And then last but not least, we have Derek Parker's Heat Check Derik Queen. And then, man, I shouldn't say last but not least, two more. Taco Takes. Haven't referenced Taco Takes before, but another one where it's like, is he the next great offensive hub? Definitely go check out Taco Takes. And then for real, finally, last one is Floor and Ceiling Scouting Report on Derik Queen. Go check out all the great Derik Queen film there. Yeah, thank you so much for listening to us. Let us know what you think about Derik Queen. And if you have a different comp from Apleren Sengun, because I think so many of us try to resist that comp, but just the more you see Derik Queen, the more you saw Shengun, it's like, man, this just it's too similar. It's just two great offensive players, two great offensive centers that do so much and play making, just fantastic offensive guys. Yeah, thank you so much for listening to us. We'll catch you next time. We're going